What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning into the first Rocket Vlogs video of the year 2024. And this year we are doing big things. This video is going to blow the lid off this whole operation. We're going to do something you've never seen before. I'm just kidding, we're sanding. In case you missed it, this is my old Polecat 5.5 inch Nike Smoke that I got from my friend Bryce at Balls. I had one of these when I was a teenager. It got destroyed and I found another one, had to buy it. If you want the full lowdown on that story, you can go check out the video in the top right corner. If you want to watch that before watching this one, that's kind of the order of things, how that goes. Anyway, the last thing I did to this rocket was spray it with some high build filler primer. While it did a pretty good job of filling the tip-to-tip fiberglass I put on these fins, it's still not quite there. So what we're gonna do is sand this all down, get everything smooth and see what parts still need some attention. And then we're going to give something new a shot. Actually, my friend Taylor from the Rocket channel informed me that the West 410 Microlite filler is his new favorite way to fill and sand. So he says it's kind of like DIY super fill. It's gonna be cool. The only downside is that we're mixing it with West Systems Epoxy, not a sponsor. Somebody asked about that. They were like, I wonder if he's just getting paid. No, I wish West Systems was giving me free epoxy, and it's like 60 bucks. Anyway, we're gonna give this a shot, but before we can figure out where this needs to go, you know what we gotta do. We gotta sand this whole thing down. Let's get to it. 2024, the sanding channel strikes again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got this all sanded and all of these spots that I wanted to apply some of this filler to marked with a Sharpie. I have to say, this tube smoothed out super, super nice. I have the upper tube right here and it's gonna need to get the same treatment. And I started to sand it, but then I remembered I had marked all the spots to drill for shear pins and the vents for the electronics bay. So we're gonna go ahead and wait to do that. But the good news is, because this is West Systems epoxy based, I should have plenty of time to do all that, and I don't really think there's gonna be any spots that I need to put this filler on anyway on the upper section. There is a couple I think I wanna do on the nose cone, but I need the nose cone to drill the shear pin holes. You see the dilemma. Anyway, let's give it a shot. Taylor's recommendation, the West 410. It says, a thickening additive that blends easily with West System epoxy to create an extremely light, easily carved, and sanded fairing compound. That's what we like to hear. Let's see. I've been thinking about like different ways to use this stuff, and I was kind of thinking I could use it like I do with the spot putty or this Evercoat. Yeah. Basically, do my fillets and then put another set of small fillets over top of it. Maybe get some faster hardener for this epoxy, and then have like something that's real easy to sand. I do wonder how much structural integrity is taken away with using this stuff, because if you could just use this for fillets on something that's not going to be under a lot of stress, it would make the whole sanding and filling process a whole lot easier. Then again, what you could do is just not be as like hyper paranoid about the perfection of your fillets like I am. That goes a long way in mental stability when it comes to building rockets. We're gonna put a pretty healthy dose in this time. It is weird how it goes in like super chunky, but it gets so smooth so fast. And my thought process here is that like there's not really a way to put too much of this stuff in here for the application that we're using it for, because the less epoxy-like it is in properties, the more it's going to be just the filler. I just don't want to get to a point where I blend it so much that it's no longer kind of smooth. Basically in my head, like a slightly thicker marshmallow fluff is what I'm after here. We're getting there. It's still pretty runny. I guess I can add a ton more. I don't want to overdo it, but I'm still not really convinced that there's a way to overdo it. This is what I was afraid was going to happen. Oh wait, we're getting there. This is about the thickness I had envisioned. We're just going to make sure we have it really nice and blended up. I'm really hoping this goes better than last time I tried a new West Systems filler, because I used the fairing filler, not the microlight fairing filler, on my 4-inch Little John. And the required sanding was a nightmare. So let's put it on this thing. Okay, so I got it on all the areas that I could find. I'm sure there will be more, but I'm telling you guys right now, I'm done. This is it. I'm done filling this thing with a few coats of primer. Any minor things are probably just gonna get filled in, so I'm not super stressed about it. It already looks a million times better than the one I built when I was 16. Cool. If this stuff actually sands as easy as Taylor says that it does, then this might be my new favorite thing. Especially if you mix it with some fast hardener. I made way too much of it. But yeah, so you saw me smoothing it out. I did what I do with fillets, where I get a little alcohol on my finger and kind of pat it into the shape that I want. I was really hoping that that would work like that because it's epoxy based, and it did. And you can see like right here how it like levels itself out like epoxy does. It's very smooth looking. So if this stuff really works as good as Taylor says it does, I'm sold. It's kind of expensive. It's 54 bucks, I think, for that the big container. That's the big one. And I know it will last forever just like the silica does, but you know, that stuff's 60 bucks. The epoxy's $200 a gallon. It is a very expensive alternative to the $15 body filler that I used back there. But if you already have the epoxy, so far I highly recommend it. But I guess the ultimate test will be tomorrow when I start sanding it. But so far, good stuff. All right, let's check it out here. Epoxy's been drying overnight, and it's really like, look at that. Look how smooth. It really smooths out and looks and feels super nice, like epoxy, like super, super smooth. But hopefully it's as sandable as Taylor says it is. Right here, I might just use the DA sander again. But yeah, so there wasn't a whole lot of stuff to touch up, so what I'm gonna do is sand this all out. Hopefully it's not gonna take very long. We'll start with the nose cone, and then we'll get some paint on it. But first, I gotta ask you for a couple favors here. For one, I would like to request you guys please go subscribe to the Rocket channel and the Wildman Rocketry channel. The Rocket channel is Taylor's channel. He's been regularly uploading so far this year. We're trying to get him to 1,000 subscribers, and the Wildman channel to 1,000 subscribers as well. Yes, for full transparency, it is because 1,000 subscribers is the threshold for monetization, but if you guys would please go check out those channels, press the subscribe button. Taylor's been regularly uploading, and I'm going to be producing videos for the Wildman Rocketry YouTube channel with a little bit more regularity throughout this year, so please go check them out. Other than that, I just want you guys to press the like button, make sure you're subscribed, and let's go ahead and see how this stuff sands out. All right. Cracking one of these bad boys. Good thing I got cold last night, I forgot to take these in. All right, let's see how this goes. Sanded right on top of the workbench like a heathen, it's fine. Oh, it's good. There was a little spot there where I think it just didn't quite take and it kind of stuck. Didn't quite stick and it pulled it out a little bit, but I'm not really worried about it. That though, it's feeling amazing. I just want to make sure I get all the edges down. It sands super, super easily. It's kind of just like sanding regular 2-part Bondo, which is awesome. So yeah, this just made it to the top of the list of my favorite type of body fillers, and if you guys want to get some, you can check out the link in the description of my Amazon store. Yes, in the interest of full disclosure, it is an affiliate link. If you buy anything from my Amazon store, I do get a little bit of a cut of it, and again, all that money goes back into producing videos. Like I said, it's not cheap. A gallon of this epoxy is about $200, and that tub of this filler is about 60 bucks. However, I did have my first gallon of West Systems epoxy for almost 10 years. And we have rockets that we built with that epoxy at the end of that 10-year period that are still super strong and nice. And that was honestly, if I'm completely truthful, not well stored. It was in garages that got hot and cold, and it's temp cycle all over the place. So yeah, it's great epoxy. There's a reason I love it. It is expensive, but it is super nice. If you're doing like extreme performance stuff, it's not really ideal, but for like general rocket stuff, especially fiberglass, carbon fiber, composite layups and stuff like that, it's really, really good. So you could also use this filler with any other epoxy, really. It would be interesting to try and mix it with like 5-minute epoxy and see how well it fills out. That stuff's already so thick with fillers that you might run into a point where it becomes so thick that you can't really spread it on anything. But like US Composites is a great alternative to West Systems. It's about half as much for a gallon system. You just have to be a little more concise because you have to count each pump. We used it to build the Arcus. So it's like 2 pumps to 1 hardener to resin, or resin to hardener, or something like that. West System stuff is super easy. It's 1 pump of each and it matches, and blah, blah, blah. I have my preferences because I am stuck in my ways, but if you want to be stuck in my ways as well, check out the Amazon description. You guys don't need to hear me talk and be bewildered by how easy it is to sand, so I'm going to throw you guys back to some nice calming music, and we'll get a good little time lapse going. All right, so overall things are looking pretty smooth, but I am gonna go get a couple cans of filler primer. For the most part, everything's good, but there are still some sort of waffle patterns from the glass weave that show up in this primer. I'm using white because there's fluorescent paint going on the fins, but for these guys, I'll probably just go ahead and hit it with some gray primer. After we spray the fins, I'll be remasking everything. We'll probably reprime and sand the airframe. But yeah, so I think I got a couple runs because the wind was a little gnarly out there. Nothing too crazy. But what we'll probably end up doing is letting this dry overnight, sanding it out a little bit, and then doing maybe 2 or 3 coats of the super hefty filler primer, and we'll go from there. That should pretty much take care of everything, and what it doesn't cover, I just don't care anymore. This thing's already so much better than my last one was because I built it when I was 16. I've already put way more hours into this than I would have at 16. And at the end of the day, you can't make your rockets look too nice because nice rockets are almost guaranteed never to come home, right? All right, here it is with a lot of coats of filler primer on it. You can see some spots like right there, kinda, where I intentionally got really heavy-handed with it. It's probably not the best technique, but I will kind of create intentional runs for certain spots that need a little more heavy filling than this. And I'm gonna let this dry overnight, or maybe even a little longer before I start sanding it. What we're gonna do is go very lightly with 400 grit sandpaper and just flatten everything out. That way we have our best shot of all this stuff being relatively uniform, because like I said, I'm done now. This is I think the 3rd time this has been filled, sanded, and reprimed. So it's not completely perfect, but it is miles better than I would have done when I was 16 on that first one. And it actually is very reminiscent of that. It was my first time using Bondo when I was 16, and I didn't realize how much sanding we go into. That's where all of this sanding and wanting things to look perfect stems from, is that Nike smoke from when I was 16. But yeah, so I think what I'm gonna do is just sand down the upper section. It's been raining all day, so I've been fighting getting coats down, so I'm not gonna try and, it's dark out now too, not gonna try and rush to get some black paint on the upper, but yeah, it's getting reverse Nike smoke colors. I got fluorescent paint for the fins, and this time I'm gonna not make the mistake I did when I was 16. We're gonna put white primer underneath it, so those colors will really pop. Okay, we got our first coat of black on the upper section of nose cone. It was a little bit of a disaster. You can kind of see on the table, both of the black cans I bought were spraying like super splotchy and just pooling up the paint on the nozzle. You can see it kind of just pooled up all over the can and nozzle and got all over my fingers as well. So I'm gonna go grab a couple new cans and hopefully that solves that issue. Because it's a good thing I had good primer base there, because I wound up having to spray it pretty heavy just to hide all the dots, and there's still a couple spots where you can see them, which isn't thrilling, but yeah, it is what it is. There's still some noticeable texture from the fiberglass as well, but not nearly as bad as my first one. I'm hoping a few coats of paint on there will cover that up, and if I get 3 on there or so and you can still kind of see it a little bit, what I'll probably do, even though I really don't want to, is I'll probably wet sand it all again before we do one last couple of coats of black. All right, after much deliberation and some input from my Patreon supporters, thank you everybody on Patreon for your input, I decided to right my teenage wrongs. We went with 3 orange fins, and I have to say, this orange pops super hard on the white background. the Rust-Oleum fluorescent. It's got the old school nozzle, but it actually sprays super, super nice. So I'm pretty stoked with how that came out. So we're just gonna let that dry overnight. Then we'll spray the one green fin. Then we're gonna let that dry up nice and make sure everything's really, really dry, and sand everything down again. One more coat of filler primer, and then this whole thing gets sprayed black except for the fins, obviously, and we're done with paint. I might do some semi-gloss clear over top of it, I don't know yet, but you can really see the fluorescent colors highlight issues, but like I said, I've had enough. It's good enough. But yeah, there you go, 3 orange fins. Okay, so catch-22 with the fluorescent paints is the more coats you put, the less fluorescent they seem, but they also don't cover well. So we kind of just had to do a few coats. I think there's 4 of the green, but once I have this bag off, you'll see that it still pops pretty hard against the white. I should bring the knife out of here. Against the white, they still look pretty hardcore. That orange looks so gnarly. Oh my god. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that actually. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So now we're gonna let these dry for a long, long time, probably a couple days, because I'm gonna have to put tape directly on that paint. And one of these fillets, maybe you can zoom in on it. Yeah, that one. It actually cracked, which is weird. I don't really understand how that happened. So I don't know, was trying to decide how far up onto the fins or down onto the fillets I should mask it. Now I know, because that needs to be fixed. So we're gonna go right above that line and then just kind of eyeball it and try to match that depth down the fillets on all of them. The edges are gonna be a little bit of a pain, which is another reason I wanna let it dry really thoroughly before I start masking stuff, because I'm probably gonna need to use an X-Acto knife to trim the shape of the tape correctly the way I want. But we're gonna get those masks off. I'm gonna give a quick sand to this whole thing with some 400 grit, and then we're gonna put one more coat of filler primer on it and then spray it black, and it's done. Okay, you guys know I don't like to hide my mistakes, and I just made a pretty dumb one. Well, I did yesterday anyway. You can kind of see it hopefully on camera there, those hard lines. I had a meeting yesterday. I was in such a rush. I masked the fins the night before and was just excited to start painting it. So, you know, because this is the last step here. And yeah, I forgot that I wanted to sand these down. So as I was spraying the primer, I was like, oh, that's unfortunate. Those are some pretty hard lines that I meant to sand off. So yeah, it's been drying overnight. Now I'm going to sand it down. Pretty quick and easy fix. So long as I don't accidentally sand in my masking lines. These lines aren't going to be beautiful because I wanted them to be as far down on the fillet as I could get them, so they're just kind of freehand rounded on the front and back. So, you know, they won't be perfect, but it will be good enough for me. I'm not going to bother filming the sanding because, you know, you guys get plenty of that. I'll see you in a sec. All right, everybody. Brought the rocket in to shelter it from the wind. I definitely did not put a tarp down and get the floor wet in my garage and paint it inside, even though that would be a good idea because overspray can't stick to water. At any rate, I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here. As much as I wanted there to be a nice reveal of how potent these colors look up against the black, I've decided that it's more fun if we save it for the next video. And by that, I mean, I'm gonna fix these runs, but this video has been like 3 weeks in the making. It's almost an entire month actually at this point. I just want to put a video out for you guys, let you guys know what I am working on. The Nike Smoke is almost there. There's just some very, I mean, hardly even noticeable runs, but the nice thing about the semi-gloss paint is that I'll be able to just wet sand it with like 800 or 1000 grit and then just kind of touch it up with the black paint and it'll all blend perfectly fine. This tube is looking really, really smooth and nice. That makes me super excited. And then we're gonna have to peel the fins. Make sure, cross your fingers that I didn't get any overspray in through the masking one way or another, because it's gonna show up very obviously on those bright fluorescent colors. But you know how we do it. If something went wrong, we will fix it. For some reason, for as little patience as I have for a lot of things in the world, when it comes to painting rockets, I can mess up for 3 weeks straight, basically, and just be like, no, it's fine. We'll get it eventually, and we always do. But remember, we can't make it too pretty, because then we're pretty much guaranteed not to ever see it again. But thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of Rocket Vlogs. I want to extend a special thank you to my Patreon supporters, as usual, whose names are rolling across the screen right now. If you want to see behind the scenes videos, pictures, secret projects that I haven't announced on the channel yet, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff in Interact, and we do a quarterly giveaway of a $100 rocket. And if we can get to 100 Patreon supporters, I will make it a $200 rocket or gift certificate for the next giveaway. That's Q2 2024. So join up. I was hoping to have this video out in time to be able to tell you guys, hey, hurry up. You got a little bit of time to get in on it, but this is getting posted in February now. I blew it. It's fine. Whatever, you know, this is just how things go sometimes. My name is Braden Carlson. Thank you guys for watching a Rocket Vlogs video. I will see you next time.